Welcome to the B Block Podcast. I am your host, Brandon Scott. I appreciate you for joining me. I am actually joined by a special guest today. I've got 12-year NFL veteran, former Texan, Pro Bowl offensive lineman, blocked for what I thought were, and I think this is inarguable, the best Texans teams in franchise history. And I'm gonna do a little humble brag here real quick. My coworker at Sports Radio 610, Wade Smith. Wade, man, and that is a humble brag, man. I'm styling on him a little bit. Wade, man, what's happening, man?
Already. Oh, you mad because I'm styling on you? I ain't heard that in a while. B. Scott, what's good, man? I'm glad to be on the show, man. Glad to be able to talk to the people, man. Another day that I'm up above ground and being able to do what I do. So I'm enjoying it, man.
Yeah, man, I feel the same way. Like, I feel like there's so many different things to complain about or to be upset about or feel like this ain't going this way. But look, man, we still here, still living life. We got sports back. We got football back for as rough as the season has been so far. We still got it back. I'm glad to be watching it. You know, I know you got to be glad to be watching football after a lull time in sports and life in general. You know what I mean?
Yeah, those few like 3-4 months during the first part of coronavirus, man, it was looking bleak, man, and having to do shows and talk about what sports might look like and how things might go or will seasons even take place. That was a whole different scenario that you really didn't want to get into. You want to be able to talk about games and talk about what you see on TV. And so a lot of the sports, I think, have done an excellent job of giving us something to escape from all the shenanigans that's going on in the world today. And even though you really can't fully escape, like the whole idea of watching competitive sports and people play at the best of the best in their particular sports, being able to enjoy that, man, that's I think it's something added to just your daily lives. And so I've been happy with watching the NBA bubble and Major League Baseball, and of course NFL season is back, and all the sports have done a really good job of looking after one another as far as, you know, not testing positive for the coronavirus and being able to do it in a safe way. So salute them, and I'm just happy for it.
Yeah, man, I agree with you, man, especially the part about the shenanigans, man. I think for me, I was skeptical for a little while because of all the shenanigans and because of all of just what was going on. It was just such a confusing time, and, you know, people started losing their jobs, and it just didn't seem, you know, it just didn't seem tenable, like this could go on. Like, I was really skeptical at one point, and the further along we got, even when we weren't necessarily handling the virus and the spread and controlling it necessarily well, it did seem like we were going to press on and kind of figure out a way. So I'm glad that we got that. What I'm not glad about, man, is this 0-2 start with the Texans. Now, I've said this already. I was not expecting them to be 2-0. I wasn't even expecting them, if I'm just keeping it 100, I wasn't expecting them to be 1-1. I figured they would lose both of these games. So I'm not mad about the final result, which is really, I mean, you being a former athlete, a pro athlete, you know, this is a results business. That's all that matter is the win column, the loss column. But the way it looked, man, there is some nuance to this, man, and that's why we do what we do. That's why we talk about these things. The way it looked has been the most discouraging part to me. I was just telling somebody the other day that last year, after 2 weeks, the Texans, I believe, were 1-1. But I felt good about both games because even in defeat and a loss on Monday Night Football to the Saints, they looked pretty good. They looked like a competent team that you could root for confidently. They get a hell of a goal line stance from Justin Reed on Leonard Fournette in week 2, and you're like, okay, you know, there's their first win. They're 1-1. There's a squad here. This, how much of this, Wade, is they're playing arguably the two best teams in the league, and then how much of it is this team just is not ready and is underperforming? What's the balance here in the reaction?
So I completely agree. The whole idea that the Texans were going to win one of the first 2 games, I just didn't think it was realistic. I just look at the 2 teams that they was playing, and I know both of those teams, they have distinct identities. They have better players. They have better coaches. I expected them to go out there and win the game. that was that on that. There was ways that the Texans could go out there and compete and win the game. They didn't do those things, and so they didn't even get close to doing those things, and so that's why the games were so lopsided. And that's the disappointing thing about it, because that's the beautiful thing about the NFL, man. You could play a team that has better players, better coaches, better identity, and on any given Sunday, you can go out there and win. And especially when you got players on your team that are elite players, and you have a system that's been in place for a very long time, you would expect for them to go out there to play at least a competitive ball game. And you also had that kind of thought in the back of your head that, man, the Texans can win this. Like, there's no reason why they can't win this game. Nothing is impossible in this league. So the way they went out there and played, man, they looked like this was year one in the offense. And part of that is because they got some new faces in the offense. People are kind of surprised that the Texans don't look as good this year as they did in years past. And in years past, they've never been a great offense. They've been pretty good, and they've had some great games, but they've never been consistently, like a damn good offense. They've been inconsistent. A lot of that, I think, has to do with the fact that they're a week-to-week offense. They game plan and they come up with their identity based off their opponent from week to week. So with that being said, I think that's where a lot of inconsistencies come into play. But when you looked at it and you say, man, you look at the personnels that people that have changed on the roster, DeAndre Hopkins is no longer here. So when you take that key piece, the key piece to the offense out of the equation, and you add some new pieces in there, it's going to take some time to try to get it back anywhere close to what it was before. And we talked about it all offseason about how, hey, you got all this speed and you got, veteran guys coming in here, and that's good in theory, but you have to actually put it in and implement it into practice, and you have to execute. And a lot of times it takes time to get that execution down, especially when you have an off season like it was. I mean, you got the coronavirus, guys not allowed to be at the facility for extended period of time. Everything was done like individually or in small groups, and then you had to put it all together. Well, I mean, you're fighting with one hand tied behind your back when you're in that scenario. So you got a lot of factors that are going and coming into place. And that's why you're seeing the performance. And I'm sticking with offense because, to me, the offense was the side of the ball where you've had expectations for. Defense, you really didn't have the expectations because you lost players and you really didn't replace them. And you had a new defensive coordinator, so you really didn't know what you was going to get. You was just hoping that, hey, the offense can carry this team until the defense can kind of catch up, and that would keep the Texans competitive. Well, the offense hasn't been playing up to snuff at all, and the defense has played about what you thought, maybe a little bit better than what you thought, and that's the results you've gotten out of the first two games.
So a couple of things that you said I want to unpack real quick, just from, get your perspective again as a former pro athlete. This lack of elite players and star power on the field. I watched the film, and when I watch the film, it's different from when you watch the film because I cannot see everything that you would see. But one thing,
Right,
as a person with two eyes and good sense, that I did see was that there were not a lot of elite players. Even as a football fan, you can tell when a guy jumps out. Like, I might not know the blocking scheme, I might not know what coach told the players to do exactly, but I can tell when a player stands out, and I can tell when a player gets beat. When somebody just flat out gets physically beaten. And you as an offensive lineman, I'm pretty sure can identify with all of that. What do you make of the lack of star power or of elite players? Like, when you watch the film, does anybody jump out to you? I guess is the question. Does anybody jump out to you?
The Texans have elite players. They just don't have as many as they used to have. And the team made conscious decisions to let those elite players go or get rid of those elite players. If you look at the Kansas City Chiefs game, some of the key plays of the game was when an elite player went against an average player for the Texans. You look at the job that Chris Jones did against Zach Fulton. That's a matchup that Chris Jones is going to win in key situations. That's an elite player against an average player. The average player, unless you scheme it up and you give them help, they're going to lose that battle, right? You got Frank Clark going against Titus Howard. That's an elite player going against a second-year guy that eventually might be pretty good, but he still got to get there. He ain't there yet. You know what I mean? And the Chiefs, I remember distinct plays of Pat Mahomes throwing off his back foot, rolling to his right when pressure was right in his face, and throwing a deep cross to Tyreek Hill. Those are two elite players making a play. The defense call was right. They had all the people in the right places. They got pressure. But sometimes it's about who. It's about the Jimmies and the Joes. It's not about the X's and O's. You know what I mean? And so if you have better players than I have, chances are that team is going to come out on top, especially the Super Bowl champions. They're Super Bowl champions for a reason. And so you saw that. You saw last week, Judon and Calais Campbell taking advantage of the right side of the Texans offensive line, causing pressures, getting in Deshaun's face. So you have Deshaun that's an elite player not playing elite because there's elite players on the other teams that are kind of taking him out of his game. And so, like I said, the Texans made conscious decisions to let people go and to get rid of people. Their whole thought process behind it was, we're going to have layers and layers of players. We're going to have a bunch of really good guys and not as many elite guys. Well, to me, that thought process and that mentality can keep you competitive, but you're not going to be able to it's going to keep you competitive with the majority of the teams in the league, but it's going to keep you out of the category of the elite teams in the league. And so I talked about this all offseason. I just felt like the Texans treaded water this offseason. They did they made a bunch of moves. They traded this person away. They brought this person in. They made draft picks, they free agent signings, all this type of stuff. All they did at best was tread water. As of right now, they're sinking. You know what I mean? They're trying to keep their head above water.
Yeah.
But I think by the end of the season, you're gonna say, well, they just same old same, 9-7, 10-6, losing the first round of the playoffs. That's what it seems like. That's where the Texans are headed right now.
So, like, when I think about treading water, man, eventually your legs start to get tired, your arms start to get tired when you're near tread. And that's what they remind me of. Treaded water during the off season, and now they're at that point where they passed their physical fitness point, where they're getting tired, and now you're seeing that them treading water is not a good thing. And somebody need to come in there and rescue them.
Yeah, no question. Think about it. When you tread water, there's a lot of work being done under the surface, but above the surface, you don't really see no difference. If somebody's looking at what's going on above the surface when somebody's treading water, it's pretty calm. You're not making progress. You're not going backwards. You're not going forward. You're just staying in the same place. You're treading water. What the Texans should have did this offseason is you have DeAndre Hopkins on your team. Go ahead and pay him and bring in another receiver to help the offense so you have another weapon to go along with them, as opposed to trading him away and not trying to replace him with other people. Because at best, you're going to tread water. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to moving forward. You were close. You was up 24-0 against the Kansas City Chiefs. To me, it didn't make sense that they let their elite players go that got them in that position of 24-0 against the Chiefs on the road in the playoffs. And you let some of the elite guys go and you bring in other guys that aren't elite. David Johnson, he's not an elite player right now. You know what I mean? When you made that trade, he was not an elite player. So I didn't understand the logic behind it. You can try to spin it and you can try to make it palatable. And if everything works out, then maybe it can be true. But the likelihood of that happening just wasn't very high. And so everything that I've seen so far, it hasn't surprised me. I am disappointed in how bad the offense has looked. But everything besides that looks about the way I thought it would look. And they have another tough matchup against the Steelers this week. So that was something we talked about this offseason too. Like, listen, man, if you're a Texans fan, if you're a player on the Texans, if you're in that organization, these first few weeks cannot determine how you approach the next 13, because you had a tough road to hoe to start off with. You could have played your best ball against all three of these teams and lost all three games. You know what I mean? But you have to be able to stick together and understand, if we keep improving, getting better, we will start winning these games. We will start getting back competitive in the league. And that's what I think you're going to end up seeing out of Texas. But right now, this is a dark time right now, because you're playing against really good teams. You're playing against teams that know who they are. They're not trying to figure stuff out. The Texans are right now, they're trying to figure stuff up. Like, how is this defense going to work? How is this offense going to work with these new pieces? So you got 3 teams back to back to back that know who they are and are talented, and you're trying to figure stuff out. That's not a recipe for winning games. And so but if you let that get to you and you start to break up and you start to, talk bad about each other in the media, some of the stuff that I've seen, what JJ said about the Rook, I just didn't agree with that. When stuff like that starts happening, that's when you start seeing, issues that are long lasting. They got to make sure they don't allow that stuff to happen, allow outside noises to get to them so they can focus in and get themselves back on the right track.
Man, so I'm gonna ask you about a couple of the offensive linemen specifically in a second, but real quick back to the game plan offense thing. Does that mean, so I'm leaning on your experience here because I'm trying to understand this, man. Does having a game plan offense, like, it doesn't sound like a bad idea, you plan for your opponent, like it sounds like logic, but if you're a game to game plan offense, quote unquote, however they word it, does that mean you don't have an identity or that you don't have a particular thing that you lean on? And back to the point again about elite players, do elite players not help you in whatever your game plan is going to be in a game-to-game game planning offense? Like, doesn't that help?
So this is the thing. When you talk about a game plan offense, all right, in theory, it is the perfect way to approach the game, in theory. In execution, it is extremely, extremely, extremely difficult to do because you're playing the best of the best. What it sounds like to me when I hear game plan offense, it's like when Bruce Lee says, be like water. His kung fu, his whole idea was not to have a certain style, because if you have a certain style, someone can use that against you and defeat you, right? Because they know what they know what you're trying to get to. But if you're like water, whatever your opponent is doing to you, you are going to be able to counteract that, right? Same thing with like Floyd Mayweather and Pernell Whitaker. These are 2 of the best defensive counterpunchers in the history of boxing, right? But those guys are uber elite. They are the best of what they do. Bruce Lee, Floyd Mayweather, Pernell Whitaker, right? Tom Brady did an excellent job with it in New England. But I've yet to see any other team, any other franchise have that philosophy and have success at the highest level. It just doesn't work. And I'm a realist. I put my players in the best position to succeed. Take whatever their talents are and build your team around a certain identity and say, we're going to go out here and we're going to do this and we're going to adjust, but these are things we're going to do. When I played for the Texans, we were going to run outside zone 15 times a game at least. It was going to look different. We're going to run different formations. If you look at the Rams now, there's a lot of teams like that. If you look at the Rams and the 49ers, if you look at Seattle, there's a bunch of teams out there right now that run that. Minnesota, Green Bay, it's a bunch of teams, and a lot of these teams have really good offenses. There's a lot of teams out there that run the scheme where we're going to run outside zone 15 times a game. It's probably going to be 15 different formation shifts and motions to get to the same thing, but we're going to run outside zone 15 times a game. That's an identity, right? If you have an identity, that means this. That means that every single day you go out there, every single week, we're going to do these certain things. We're going to work on our footwork, on our technique. We're talking about up front, our footwork, technique, landmarks, so that we can defeat whatever you throw in front of me. We don't care what you throw in front of us. We have an answer for it, right? When we come to the line of scrimmage, we know what we're going to do. So now we can play football. The margin for error is so small in this game, because the person across from you is a 1%er. Sometimes they're a 0.01%er. If you're that good at something, if you're an expert at something, you got 2 experts going at something, it would be like playing a chess match and one person playing on the clock and the other person don't have to play on the clock. You see what I'm saying? If you have to play on the clock and one person don't have to play on the clock, somebody's going to have a huge advantage over the other because they have more time to think out what's going on and plan how I'm going to attack this person. Well, when you play a game plan offense, and every time you come to the line of scrimmage, you are trying to figure out what's the perfect play based off of what the defense is doing. that puts you at a disadvantage. You're not focusing how to get that guy block across from me. I'm not focusing on what angle I need to run this route. You're thinking on, am I running the right route? Is he wanting me to bend out, or does he want me to turn in? The quarterback and the receiver, are we on the exact same page? It's very, very difficult to do. That's why I give Tom Brady so much respect. To me, he's the GOAT. If you've been able to that offense started way back when he was young, like in 2001, 2002. The innovator of that offense ain't even coaching no more because it don't work other places. Charlie Weiss is one of the persons that really implemented that offense in that scheme, right? He ain't even coaching no more because he took it other places and it didn't work because he didn't have Tom Brady. He didn't have those Belichick defenses. And so that's my thing when I always ask the question, you show me the team that has a game plan offense, that has won a Super Bowl, that's been to the Super Bowl, that's not Tom Brady and the Patriots. The Patriots don't do it no more. The Patriots got Cam Newton, and they say, well, we can't do that with Cam Newton. We're going to tailor this offense around him, and we're going to be competitive. And that's what they've been doing.
Yeah.
The Texans got to do the same thing with Deshaun Watson. They got to tailor the offense around him so that he can just do what he does. He didn't have the game plan offense stuff when he was at Clemson. When you brought him in here, that was not his thing. The first 6 games that he played when he was putting up all those points, that's not what they were doing. They would say, hey, we need to keep this simple for Deshaun. Let him do what he does. These teams are not going to be able to adjust, and we're going to dictate to them, and that's what we're going to do. That's what the Texans got to get back to. The problem is that Deshaun is such a good player that you feel like, well, he can do some of these things that Tom does. So let's stick with this is what we know. You know what I mean? When you're offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, a coach, if you can fit somebody into what you want to do and you're comfortable, you're gonna do that. And that's why you see the inconsistency out of the Texans offense, because they don't have a real identity. They're trying to be like Water, they're trying to be like Bruce Lee, they're trying to be like Pernell Whitaker and Floyd Mayweather, but they ain't got the Jimmys and Joes to be that. You see what I'm saying? So, and to the second part of your question, yeah, that's exactly right. You got to have those elite. You got to have a Tom Brady for it to work. You got to have a coaching staff. The New England Patriots coaching staff over the years, they've had a bunch of head coaches that were like GAs and assistant offensive line coaches and line coaches and linebackers coaches that are now head coaches. They've branched out. They're usually not successful as head coaches, but as position coaches, you got the best of the best at all these spots. Well, the Texans ain't got that. They're trying to build that, but they ain't got that. And so that's why you see the inconsistency.
Man, when you mentioned Cam Newton, man, it struck a nerve. It struck a nerve watching, because first of all, I like Cam. I'm rooting for Cam. But when
Cam got me rooting for the Patriots, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Cam got me being like I was happy that they won that first game. I was really excited from they look good, and they I've never cheered for the Patriots in my life.
Ever.
But Cam got me excited about them doing good.
And it's instructive, man. Back to the point you were making, it's instructive how you tailor what you do to the elite talent that you have. And so when you see them do that in the midst of a pandemic, and not just in the midst of a pandemic, Cam, we all remember the story is Cam getting signed was how late he got signed, right? How all this time went by and didn't nobody check for him, and then the Patriots finally swoop in. It looked like they don't have enough time to put together an offense, or it's the pandemic and all of these other excuses that could have existed within the infrastructure that have not come to play. It's frustrating.
Well, think about it. They did have this offense in hand. Josh McDaniels ran a very similar offense when he was with the Denver Broncos, because he had Tim Tebow. Right? You got a quarterback that's more athletic, bigger, stronger, and throws a better ball than Tim Tebow, but he still has that same offense. Those coordinators that have those offenses, they don't go away. They might not utilize them because of the personnel that they got, but they always got them in their back pocket to bring them in play. It's just, Deshaun Watson should be a quarterback that runs the ball. Design quarterback runs 5-6 times a game, every single game. 5-6 times he's going to run the ball. You know what I mean? Lamar Jackson is a quarterback that probably runs the ball 8 to 10 times a game. Cam Newton's a quarterback that runs the ball 10 to 12 times a game. But that's part of their identity. That means the defense has to honor them running the ball, because when they run the ball, usually it's a 5, 10, 15-yard. These are big run plays, and it keeps defenses off balance. But the teams that play the Texans, they don't honor Deshaun Watson. When they run zone reads, when they run RPOs, they don't honor Deshaun Watson. And you can see it on Tim. You watch it on film. I said Tim and Faith. If you see it on
I knew
tape
what
and you
you meant,
see it
brother.
on
I'm with
film,
you.
yeah. But you see it. And so it's like they're not checking for Deshaun because they know that the Texans aren't going to run Deshaun. They only run Deshaun in critical situations. Maybe it's a 3rd and 1, a 4th and 1. It's a goal line situation. They might dial up a design run. But instead of it being just a normal part of their offense, they don't do that. And I kind of understand why to a certain degree, but that you got to move past what happened a couple years ago when he got hurt. And
That's exactly
he didn't
what
get
I was
hurt because
about. That's exactly what I was going to ask you. Are they playing scared? Is this to protect them, maybe, but to a fault? Like, what is going on with that?
So I think it's a combination of factors. It's a combination of them feeling like Deshaun can do what Brady did, and then them also understanding if they lose Deshaun Watson, the season is done.
Yeah,
That's how it was when he got hurt. When he blew out his knee, that season was done. There was nothing that you was gonna get out of the Texans. It was just bad ball for the rest of the way. They were not a competitive team any longer because they didn't have Deshaun. You look at the backup quarterback they have on the team now, you're not going to be excited about what the Texans could do if you lose Deshaun. So you understand that part of it, right? But you have a team that if you use everyone correctly, if you use them at their best and you implement the talents they have at their best, you can compete with anybody in this league. And it's like, do you want to make sure that you're in the mix, or do you want to shoot your shot and try to win it all? And I feel like they're trying to walk that fine line, but it's more on the side of protecting Deshaun. And he's still getting hit. He's getting hit because he gets hit in the pocket because of the pass protection issues. You know what I mean? Because of him not getting the ball out. Why not having Deshaun go forward, running the ball forward where he can see where it's coming from, slide and that. You see Kyler Murray, they talked about the stat the other day. He ran the ball 13 times. 12 out of 13 times he slid or ran out of bounds. He had 13 carries for like 90 some yards and a touchdown. That is an amazing, and I need to kind of slap myself on the hand because I didn't mention Kyler Murray earlier, but that's the same thing that Deshaun Watson should be doing. The exact same things. You're running the ball a bunch in scenarios where you are one-on-none or one-on-one in the open field. You can see the hit coming, and you can protect yourself. And it's not what the Texans do. And so this is what it's going to be. It's going to be like this. It's not going to be any continuity until they decide to say, you know what? And maybe them going 0-2, 0-3, whatever it might be, maybe they at that point they say, well, the hell with it, man. We gotta do something. But to me, I just feel like you should approach the season that way. If you want to beat the Chiefs, Deshaun Watson's got to run the ball 5 or 6 times, like on design runs, to keep them honest, because it opens up everything else. It opens up holes for David Johnson and Duke Johnson. It makes the job of the offensive line easier. It slows down the pass rush. That's a bullet in the chamber that you're not shooting. You know what I mean? Like the Patriots are not holding. They letting them all go. You know what I mean? Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson and all these teams, Josh Allen, all these quarterbacks that can run the ball, they letting them go. And so it opens up everything else. The Texans aren't doing that, and that's part of the reason why they struggle.
Man, look, I'm gonna tell you this right now. If Josh Allen end up having a better season than Deshaun Watson this year, it's gonna be some furniture moving around here, man. It's gonna be some furniture moving.
What did they do in the offseason? They added pieces.
Yeah,
They
they went
didn't
and
take
got one of them
pieces.
special
They
players
added
you
it. They
talking
went and
about.
got Stephon Diggs. They
Mm-hmm.
still got John Brown. They
Yeah.
still got John Brown. We're gonna bring in a true number one receiver. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. You get a young guy, you add talent around him. You don't send it away. So that's a personnel decision. They consciously made that decision.
All right, man. So real quick on this offensive line, I could go on and on about what we were just talking about, and I'm sure you could too. But this offensive line, man, why is it? So let's back up real quick. we were told that, and this is true, this is the first time that they are returning all 5 starters along the offensive line since back in your day when y'all were holding it down on Kirby. Okay, that's been about a decade ago, roughly. So,
Yeah.
we felt good about that, especially considering the investments in the offensive line, the 2 first-round picks that you trade to get Tunsil, which a lot of people think was an overpay, but hey, man, it's better than Deshaun being on his backside the whole damn time.
Right.
The investments in Max Sharping and Titus Howard, the first round and second round picks. Like the money that's been paid to Nick Martin, like it seems like they felt good at least about this offensive line. So help me understand, why is this offensive line not nearly as good as we expected it to be? How much of this is, like, from your view, how much of this is the Texans offensive line getting beat physically, and how much of it is coaching and scheme and them not being put in the right position to be successful?
Well, I think it's a combination of factors. If I had to put a percentage on it, I would say um, this is the thing. I don't agree with the philosophy. So by me not agreeing with the philosophy, that's the first thing I'm going to look at and point at, because I put myself in their shoes. I put myself in a scenario when I come to the line of scrimmage and I don't know what we're going to do. And we have so many options on the table what we're going to do. And so I'm focusing on what are we going to do as opposed to how we're going to do it, right? If you want to be really successful at something, you're not worrying about what we're going to do. Everybody knows what we're going to do. We're going to figure out how we're going to do it. So if you're telling me I'm Zach Fulton and I got to get Chris Jones blocked, but on this particular play, I don't know if I'm actually got help on this play. I don't know if I do have help. I don't know if we're running away. I don't know if we're running to him. I don't know if we're pass protection. I don't know what we're doing. It's just depending on what Deshaun see, right?
Yeah.
And then now I got to get this guy blocked. And this is like, these are, it's going quick. These are split second decisions that you have to make on how to get a guy blocked. And he's already better than you. He's already better at what he does than what you do, right? So you're at a disadvantage. Now, you still got to do your job. If you don't do your job, if you consistently don't do your job, you'll be out of the job. That's the one thing I love about the NFL. If you consistently don't do your job, you'll be out of the job. You'll be no longer starting. You'll be out of the league. Whereas in other parts of life, that's not necessarily the case. It could be nepotism. It could be whatever, who you know, network and all that. You can figure out how to hustle the situation. You can go to the biggest, the highest office in the land if you're a good hustler.
Yeah,
That's just what it is. But
sports is
in
the
this
ultimate
game,
meritocracy for sure. The ultimate meritocracy.
in this game, yeah, in this game, if you can't perform, if you can't handle your business, do your job, they don't get rid of your ass. I can respect that. So a guy like Zach Fulton, if you put him in a scenario where he has an identity, he's a better football player. Zach Fulton was a better football player with the Kansas City Chiefs than he was with the Houston Texans. Go back and look at the tape. Go back and look at Zach Fulton when he was playing center for the Kansas City Chiefs. He was better than Nick Martin is now here. I thought when they signed Zach Fulton from Kansas City, he was going to end up being the starting center because he was that good at center for the Kansas City Chiefs. And he wasn't even the full-time starter. You know what I mean?
Right.
Max Sharping and Titus Howard are 2 rookies coming into the league, and this is all they know. This philosophy, this is all they know, right? Mm-hmm. To me, they're at a disadvantage to start off with because the philosophy is not geared towards making each individual player the best at what they do. The scheme and the philosophy is geared towards getting the perfect play called each and every play. And if you're versatile enough, if you're adaptable enough to do that, then you can play for us. But that's not going to be you at your best. You know what I mean? And so I'm a coach in that philosophy of I want to put my players in the best position for them to succeed, and I'm going to create a defense or create an offense to fit around them. I think inherently the Texans' offensive line don't have that going for them in their favor. So you see a lot of errors with the operation up front, false starts and balls not getting snapped on time, and all of that stuff plays into actually defeating the person that's going against me, right? At the same time, these guys, Max Sharpen was not a guy that you assume was going to come into the NFL and be a starter for his whole rookie year and his second year at left guard. That wasn't what he was prognosticated to do coming out of the draft. Titus Howard was not prognosticated to be a first-round pick. He was a second-round guy that had a high upside. Well, when you got a guy that's a high upside, you want to get that guy in the fold, start schooling him up, and then throw him out there. You don't necessarily want to throw him into the fire off the rip because he's going to go through his growing pains. Young guys go through their growing pains. All of them do. There's very rare that you have a rookie, a young offensive lineman that come into the league and they just ball off the rip. Like Quentin Nelson did it. Guys like Joe Thomas. These are guys that are going to be Hall of Famers, right? Everybody else, they go through their growing pains as a rookie. My rookie year, I was on the all-rookie team, but I gave up, I think, 10 sacks that year. You know what I mean? I gave up 3 sacks to Dwight Freeney. I gave up 2 sacks to Javon Curse. Now, these are Hall of Fame guys, right? But You're a rookie. You're going to go through your growing pains. I was playing left tackle as a rookie in the NFL after playing at the University of Memphis. Titus Howard was playing right tackle in the NFL after playing at Alabama State. It's a jump, and then you have to figure the game out. Now, imagine having to figure the game out, and everything is to be determined when you step on the line of scrimmage a lot of the times. Yep. You're not putting these guys in the best position to succeed. So it's very difficult for me to get upset, angry at what I see up front. I see guys hesitating, not playing fast. And then you have the philosophy with how they, I talked about earlier that when I was with the Texans, we knew we were going to run outside zones 15 times a game. Yeah. With the Texans offensive line, man, they don't know how many times they're going to run certain types of run schemes where they're pulling guards, pulling tackles, running outside zones, running tight zones. They just know, hey, we are going to prepare for all these, 4 or 5 runs that we got in this week. And, if they call them, we're going to run them. If they don't call them, then they just didn't call them, and we just keep it moving. Whereas if when I was here with the Texans and we had those heyday offensive lines, if we wasn't like, what are we doing? Let's go. Like, hey, that's not us. Let's, you looking at the coaches like they're crazy. Like this is not our best, because our run game directly affects our play action plays and our explosive plays when you're seeing Andre Johnson running deep crosses wide open. Well, how do you get wide open? Because the offensive line looks like they're running that same run game that they're going to do 15 times a game. The linebackers get sucked up at the line of scrimmage, and you got these big gaps, and you got big plays. Like, that was one of my favorite things to do, is to have a linebacker come hit me on a play that's a play action. That means that I did such a good job, and we did such a good job of selling that run, that the linebacker came and hit me. That means that the distance between the safety and the second level defender went from 5 yards to 10 yards.
Yeah.
Wide open plays. You go back and look at that. Everything looks the same. The Texans offense doesn't do a good enough job of making everything look the same. And it's very difficult to do that when you don't focus on, this is what we do. If you're doing a bunch of different things, a little of this, a little of that, it's goulash. That's what it is. And sometimes goulash come out good. Sometimes it don't be what it is. You know what I mean? So that's what the Texans offense is, because they don't identify, like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to run. And they could do it based off of their offensive personnel they have now. They could say, we're going to run zone reads 10 times a game. And probably based off of what the defense do, if the defense plays a certain way, then Deshaun going to have 8 carries because they played it that way.
Yeah.
Or the running backs going to have 8 carries off of that because they played it that way. As opposed to the Texans will call it zone read, but they know good and well they're not going to have Deshaun run the ball because they don't want him to run the ball. Right. They're going to make it look like he's going to give it regardless. And so that's the difference of kind of what you saw in 2010 and 2011, 2012. There was a distinct identity. There was more elite players, and everything looked the same. So it made it harder on defenses. And so that's why you saw the continuity make a difference. That's why you're seeing guys struggle early on. Will the offensive line get better? They're going to get better. That's one thing about Bill O'Brien coach teams. they learn from their mistakes and they get better as the season goes on. But you're dropping ball games and you're looking bad in the process, right? As opposed to the alternative of starting out fast, and then as people start to get on to you, adjusting. You know what I mean? There's different ways to go about it. But like I said, I've seen multiple franchises do it the way that we did it back in 10 and 11, win championships. I could just throw out example after example after example after example. I've only got one example, and it happened 6 times, and they went 9 times. The New England Patriots went 9 times and won 6 of them. So you've seen it work that way, but I've never seen anybody else do it. And we're not the New England Patriots. This team is the Houston Texans. So let's figure out our identity and then go ahead. You could take bits and pieces of what you learned from there, but get an identity, and that will help everybody involved. It'll help a lot of your players look better than what they look at right now. It'll make you look smarter as a coach. It'll make it harder on defenses.
Yo, I know the Vikings are 0-2 right now, but how awkward is it going to be when they come in here in a couple of weeks and it's the first game with fans back, possibly. I don't know if that's been confirmed yet, but they trying to get fans back for the Vikings game. Yeah. It's the first game with fans back, limited fans. And when they get here, they going to see some of that Kubiak blockers, some of that stuff that you're talking about, some of the stuff that you're alluding to, where you have an identity. They might not be a good team. I don't know. I don't know what to make so far of the Vikings, whether they're going to be good or not. I know Kirk Cousins didn't look good in his last game, and that Aaron Rodgers was
he lost one of his guys.
Yeah, he did.
Kirk Cousins lost one of his guys.
He did.
And so I think it's hurting him. You know what I mean? Yeah. But the Vikings, that's the thing about the Vikings, them coming in here, you're going to see the Kubiak scheme.
Yeah.
That game can be a line of demarcation for both franchises, because I think there's a strong possibility that both teams might be 0-3 going into that game.
Yeah. And
so the loser of that game, the season is done. You're not coming back from 0-4, right? You can come back from 0-3, but you ain't come back from 0-4. So you talk about storylines coming into a game. That's gonna be must-see TV. That's gonna be the radio that week is gonna be popping, because there's gonna be a lot to talk about. And if fans see Kubiak's scheme look just pretty damn good against the Texans defense, they're gonna say, "Man, could you imagine if they're gonna look at every one of the plays that Kubiak and them is running, saying, could you imagine what it would be like if Deshaun was running the plays instead of Kirk Cousins?
Yes.
If you put that offensive scheme, you know what Madden needs to do? You know how Madden has, like if it's in the game, it's in the game. You know what Madden needs to do? I'm changing the subject real quick. You know what Madden needs to do? Madden needs to make it, when you play, you know how to have the ratings on there? If you got Lamar Jackson and you can change like which offensive playbook you want to use, they need to make it to where if you got Lamar Jackson and the Ravens and you switch the playbooks, his rating goes up or down.
Yes.
Because that's the reality. If it's in the game, it's in the game. If you put Lamar Jackson in this Texans offense, Lamar Jackson, you ain't talking about him nowhere near about the way that you do now. But if you put Deshaun Watson in Lamar's offense or put him into Pat Mahomes' offense, his rating will go up. Same with offensive linemen. To me, I need to highlight my boy Clint Oldenburg, because he's the one that's over the Madden ratings. I think this is a great idea. I'm gonna hit him up like, bro, you need to implement that part in the game, because that's the reality of the situation, and that's what the fans are gonna be looking at. They're gonna look at Kubiak's scheme and they're gonna say, "Damn, what would it look like if Deshaun Watson was in that scheme? We need to go get a coach that does it that way." Or they looked at the Kansas City Chiefs when we played in Week 1 and said, "Damn, what would it look like if Deshaun was in that scheme?" How, you know what I mean? That's
like Deshaun Watson and Kubiak's scheme with DeAndre Hopkins as an element to the offense, like not trading him away. Like that sounds like we're talking about a potential MVP candidate, the way we would like to view him as,
For sure.
Yeah, man, that is a hell of an idea. Like that's a subtle element to the game, but also a very obvious difference in like circumstance, situation. People, I think even now in the narrative business are trying to figure out, is Deshaun Watson as good as we think he is, or is he being held back by his situation? And I don't think there's a lot of people who don't have a great answer for that, because because of the situation, and they don't necessarily see football the way you do, and can kind of see where it's failing brick by brick. So yeah, that's fascinating. If you can get that done, that'd be a hell of a little wrinkle to the game, man. Especially as a thought experiment in the off season.
Yeah, I'm gonna shoot him a text and be like, "Hey, man, I got an idea for you. I need some kind of points on the package or something like that." You know what I mean?
I will have another humble brag to my name where I can say that the idea was born on the B Block podcast. So
really?
real quick, hey, I'm gonna get you out of here on this, man. I know we've been going for a long time. Last question is just gonna be about this Steelers game, man. Like, okay, so it's the first time, and I think in a long time, where I felt like they have a chance. Because I didn't expect them to beat the Chiefs, didn't expect them to beat the Ravens. But in this game, I think about like the Steelers' ability to get to the quarterback and the struggles that the Texans have had along the offensive line make me wonder, where am I getting this idea that they have a chance other than the fact that they're not playing the Chiefs or the Ravens? Am I making this up in my head? Or like if we look at the football matchup, what's the deal?
Yeah, I think it's because if you look at Ben Roethlisberger, you see him stand on the sideline. He's got his elbow wrapped. You remember what the Steelers looked like last year when he got hurt and they had to put a backup in the game. Their offense couldn't move the ball. You see the fact that they really haven't been able to run the ball too consistently with Connor and Snell. They've been okay, but they haven't been just dominant. But it's everything is hinging on Ben Roethlisberger and his ability to get the ball to his receivers. He's got some good young receivers. He's got Juju, of course. And so some of the balls that he's throwing, he's older. He's an older guy, you know what I mean? And so some of the balls he's throwing are just not good passes. It's similar to, when the Texans played against Tom Brady last year in the Patriots. You know what I mean? You knew that Tom Brady wasn't quite Tom Brady anymore, and he might throw you one. You know what I mean? And so to me, that's the part of it. Defensively, the Texans haven't forced any turnovers. They got to force turnovers against Ben Roethlisberger. To me, he's a candidate to throw him one. And so if you can turn over the Steelers, give yourself a chance. You know what I mean? Their defense, their front seven is a problem. To me, their front seven is better than the Ravens' front seven. And you saw what happened when the Texans played against the Ravens.
Man, don't tell me
I
that.
expect the Texans offense, I expect the Texans offense to get better. They're going to incrementally get better throughout the year. They're not going to continue to be terrible. They're going to Bill O'Brien and his team. You've seen it. He has a track record of being inconsistent, and he also has a track record of figuring out the issues and correcting them bit by bit. So they're going to get better. I just fully expect that. Evidence shows they're going to get better. Max Sharping's not going to go the wrong way this game. You know what I mean? That I've never seen that happen to him before. That happened against the Ravens. Went the wrong way, ended up in the tackle for loss. You know what I mean? Titus Howard's going to continue to get better. You look at Titus Howard, he picks on people on certain plays because he has the physical ability to pick on people. He's young. Sometimes he oversets. Sometimes he undersets. That's part of being a young football player. You start to figure stuff out as you go. You make these mistakes and you say, hey, all right, I'm going to make sure that I'm on it. So with that being said, the Texans offense is going to play a little better. The Pittsburgh offense is not as good as the Ravens and the Chiefs. That makes you think to yourself, oh, we got a chance. If we can turn them over, if we can protect the football, if we can run the ball with David Johnson, you know what I mean? If we can get our receivers more involved in the offense, if we can play a little faster, we can compete with the Steelers. And that's what give yourself a chance. That's the problem. They haven't given themselves a chance the first 2 weeks. Give yourself a chance, because if you give yourself a chance and you're in a ball game, you still got Deshaun Watson. And Deshaun Watson late in the ball game is always an ace in the hole. That's something that you know that, all right, this kid is going, and he's not even a kid anymore. He's a, his fourth year in the league, and he already got his big deal. He's shown you Buffalo Bills. He's shown you New Orleans Saints last year. He's shown you throughout his career that in the ball games, Seattle game, his rookie year, he's shown you that in the fourth quarter of ball games, he will make plays. He will make big plays to win you a game or put you in a position to win a game. So you got that ace in the hole. You got to stay competitive throughout the game so that you can you can allow Deshaun to be Deshaun when it matters the most, you can go out there and get you a dub.
That is Wade Smith, the 12-year NFL veteran, the former Texans offensive lineman, Pro Bowl offensive lineman, and my teammate, another humble brag real quick before we get out of here, my teammate at Sports Radio 610, Wade, I appreciate you for joining me and doing this favor for me, man. Much appreciated, man.
Man, it's always real, Big Scott.
All right, y'all. Hey, and so that's the tag out. It's always real from Wade Smith, man. Y'all make sure y'all subscribe to the B Block Podcast wherever you get your podcasts: Spotify, Apple, Buzzsprout, YouTube. Holla at your boy at Brandon K. Scott on Twitter. Wade, you way more famous than I am. Where can they find you though?
You can actually right now my Twitter got hacked, bro. So my Twitter account is at Smitty74 all day, but I don't have access to it. Somebody hacked me, so I've been reaching out to Twitter for the past week now, trying to get access to my account. I ain't got it, but you can follow my Twitter account at Wade Smith Found. I mean, my foundation account at Wade Smith Found, and then you also can follow me on Instagram at Smitty74 all day. But yeah, right now my Twitter has been hacked, and so I haven't had access to it for going on about 6-7 days.
Yeah,
the struggle is real.
So that means if you see some posts from Wade's account that remind you of Jamal Murray or Chris Evans or anybody else that's had any of these internet snafus, that is not your boy. That is not your boy. That is somebody that has hacked his account, and we're gonna get it right. I guess social media, Twitter, whoever need to get it right, gonna get it right, man.
Yeah, Twitter, get your mind right, man. Get my account back. It's verified, homie. I need access to my account.
Hey, I appreciate you, Wade.
All right, bro.